listeners, if you listen to this in the audio version or see it on Instagram or perhaps on the social media everywhere else. I'm super excited because with Citra, we have done an episode longer time ago on the Fit One podcast, and it was a little bit about the fitness. And Citra is a very interesting person to actually speak to you today. And I'm super excited to have the occasion to interview her and a little bit tap her brain, because Citra obviously lives in Asia, in Indonesia, and I think also you have very interesting point of view because you spend a lot of time with senior citizens, and I would be really interested to hear a lot of your thoughts, at least in this limited time we have today together, on how you think about health, how you think about wellness. But before we do that, Chitra, I want to really welcome you, and maybe you can tell a couple of words to you, and who are you, what makes you happy, and what do you want to share with today's listeners?
Okay, thank you, Matteo. Such an interesting, lovely introductions. Well, actually, my career in the fitness field started with my issues with obesity and hormonal disorders. I was having PCOS and also prediabetes issues, and I was so tired and desperate to take medication. So I finally decided to exercise and start a healthy lifestyle. So it's like about a year and a half, I managed to get back to normal weight and decided to start a career as a dance fitness instructor, group coaches, Zumba instructor, something like that. But my journey with senior fitness is like, it's, I don't know how to say it. It was not my plan, actually. So my journey in senior fitness and fitness therapy began with my difficulty finding a suitable fitness trainer for both of my parents, who at the time had many or very serious and complex chronic health problems. Actually, my father was having lots of health issues. He was having lipoma, some sort of, like a tumor, and then also pinched nerve problem with the spine, and also he was having a high blood pressure, high blood sugars. It's like everything in one package.
It is quite crazy because I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you have obviously overcome your own challenges, but it becomes a bit more difficult when the parents are involved, isn't it? Because then you have a lot of then the pressure exceeds. I feel like with ourselves as human beings,
exactly. And
sometimes we forget
yeah,
to live healthy, but when it comes down to our parents, as they get older, we start to worry a bit more and we take it more seriously.
exactly. And then the thing was, it was getting worse because my father couldn't sleep due to his, uh, many serious health issues. He could also sleep for like around 3 hours, and this leads to his emotional instability. You know what I mean? So this is where the problem begins. Like the entire family, we were helpless. We didn't know what to do, because we know he suffered in pain, and we know he had a lot of troubles. The doctor said to me that the problem in his spine has to be corrected through surgery, but my father said he wouldn't do that, and he believed there will be another option. So he went to therapy, he went to physiotherapy, he went to acupuncture and everything, like lots of therapies, but it didn't work out. So then I started to digging into what is health really, what is the matter really. It it was taking like, it took 1 year, 1.5 years for me to like training my own parents, both of my own parents. And then yeah, until I decided to go, okay, now I want to recertify myself and started my own journey. So it's something like that.
It's a fascinating journey, and it reminds me a little bit of my own. I'm quite impressed, I have to say, because just the genetic makeup that you just described, from you overcoming your own maybe obesity and some type of health challenges, but then with your dad, when it comes down to cancer, when it comes down to some pinched nerve, and maybe what I've seen also from your work, you focus a lot on the posture, and this is
Exactly.
something. And I mean, plus that's something you can maybe talk about it in a second as well, from the dancing you do. But really, I've seen a lot of cool stuff that you post on Instagram and social media that I think that I'll call it millennials and the generation Y, and maybe even the baby boomers really need to double down on that, because like
Yeah.
getting to your own parents and convincing them to live healthy, it's been a hard journey for myself because I struggled with my dad because he has or has had lower back problems. So I
Mhm.
always was, coming from the functional movement and fitness, and doing my certification that really focused on, hey, you got to take care of your legs,
Mhm.
your hamstrings, strengthen
Mhm.
them, and the posture and all these different things. But I really like, when I looked at your profile, it's fascinating because you combine, I mean, I've seen some of these videos when you train these citizens or senior citizens, and they're sitting on a chair and with some type of movement. So is it
Yeah.
safe to assume that you have developed your own style through fitness and
Yeah,
this?
a bit. I have to adjust a bit because, most of the seniors, they are having a problem with their knees. And most of the seniors, they couldn't really perform exercise in a standing positions. So I have to adjust most of my movement, and then I have to really understand how to make things work. I want to train that group of muscles. I have, some strategic planning, how to build a good posture first, and then how to push the movement so it would activate all their organs, or maximize the function of the organs, because most of the chronic illnesses case are having issues with the function of the main organs actually. So that's why I mean, like, I have to adjust. Yeah, I have to adjust. I have to come to my own method, but still based on a fitness and some, a medical base for sure. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just fascinating because you go probably to the root of the cause. And I tend to find that movement, and correct me if I'm wrong, whatever
Yeah.
type of movement, you talk about seniors having problems with their knees, but there is a huge pandemic of people sitting too much and moving too little. And I
Correct.
think finding some type of movement, and movement equals blood flow, right? So the blood flow through the organs, and there comes to detoxification, releasing of endorphins, all the happy hormones, and
Mhm.
other type of brain chemistry that's happening. How do you, how did you find out that the organs are really the key to go after, and how do you help with your maybe the type of program you develop? Because I saw some functional movement you do with the TRX or the some type of dances. How did you come to this conclusion? Because I know you're combining also a lot of health.
Yeah.
This
Well,
is
actually, it depends on the clients and the situations. The main thing is the goal that we want to achieve, actually. Like exercise for me is some sort of the tools. We can use anything in exercise. We can use strength training. We can use the dumbbells. We can use, you know, a mineral water, or we can use even a bottle filled with sand. We can use anything. We can use DRX. We can use dance. We can use bit to decide the intensity of the exercise. We can adjust it. It's just a tool. But the main thing is we have to understand the goal that we want to achieve, because everyone having a different issues and struggles on their health. So this is what I'm concerned, what I'm more concerned about. I've seen that those types of exercise is a part of the tools, is like a 30%. But the main goal is not about the exercise itself. It's about knowing yourself better, and it's about to find a right balance for your health. So, like, fitness or having a fit body is not something that we can buy or we can find. It's earned.
maybe I can buy it in a Costco or some supermarket, but you're probably onto something.
Exactly. Like, no matter how good you can find the advertisement about the supplement, about the food, and everything, still It's not about the food itself, it's not about the exercise itself. It's like a riding a bicycle, Matteo. It has to be like finding the right balance for you when you face some health issues. Like some we have three like input and then output. Input is the food that we eat for our physical body. Output is how we use the energy, is the output. And in between, we have this equilibrium stages, is called rest or sleeping. So three of this has to be balanced. That if we are overtraining, we cannot achieve a peak performance, like a fit body or peak performance of our body. If we are less training, also we cannot achieve this kind of a fitness. The same thing with our brain, I think, right? It's like our brain are always hunger for information. This is what happens with us nowadays, right? Our brain are hunger for informations. The input for our brain and our mind is informations. The out, but nowadays we are our brain are overstimulated by information that leads to expectations. So we expect more, when in reality, we don't reality not match with our expectations. So this is leads to stress. The same thing with the body. Input on and output has to be balanced.
I like that a lot. It's quite a simple equation, but I can
Exactly.
totally imagine a lot of people get it wrong. And I mean, I come from the bodybuilding background where I used to compete as well, and I mean, the whole goal is to push your body as much as possible, right? And also on the nutrition side, you got to feed the beast. You got to grow the muscle. Like you said, you would like to buy the body in a shop, but unfortunately, you got to put in the reps and put in the food. But if you look at it from your perspective of equilibrium,
Hmm.
it's definitely not that. I mean, that it's if you want the extreme results, you got to put in extreme effort,
Exactly.
and I
Yeah,
think what you're talking about is really a healthy lifestyle, right? Would it
exactly.
be safe to say that this is also kind of the part of the definition of healthy lifestyle? Is that kind of what you're
Longevity.
trying to do and accomplish with your work?
I would say it's a longevity to keep our body, works in a long term. It has a different approach, I think. If you take a look closer, the people or the seniors who live longer, they keep all this in balance. They keep the output and then the input in balance in a very long term. So when we aim for longevity, we have a different approach for sure. So we want to boost something. We go for a bodybuilding. We build something. It's bodybuilding is a part of the booster of the longevity, I think. Yeah.
I
So
haven't
it's a
heard this before, but that's a nice definition because I heard this podcast, I think, a couple of years ago when I was driving around in Italy, in Sicily, and this whole doctor's notion was you got to build muscle first because that's your protective mechanism. And I can totally imagine with a lot of the seniors you're working
mm,
with, like you said, they have a bad knees. The challenge is because they don't have enough muscle. Because the
exactly.
muscle, as we get older, the muscle diminishes, and a lot of people underestimate this. And this is why when they get hurt, it
Yeah.
takes time for them to recover because they don't have this muscle memory to really have the muscle. And it's not about being huge or being super skinny, but it's about protecting yourself, right?
Exactly. Exactly. But what we most don't really realize is that um, we tend to think that walking and then swimming or something like that is enough for us. But in fact, as we get older, we are rarely trained our upper body, and this is leads to various issues, including chronic illnesses. One of the reason is we will have a bad posture because we rarely train our upper body. We will have our hunchback, and this makes most of the people who have these posture issues are having difficulties with breathing. Imagine you put yourself like this and then you breathe. You cannot breathe deeply with this. You cannot. You just cannot. So in
It's
order for us, to maintain a good, let's say, muscle for our lungs, to keep our lungs strong and healthy, we need to have a good postures on our upper body, because only that way we can keep our main organs or our vital organs function properly.
it's a definition I've never heard before, I have to say, and it's quite exciting because I mean, funny enough, with my partner, we are getting into free diving. We're just gonna
Mhm.
be flying off and talking or taking our certification, and it's all about breathing, right? You dive holding a breath. But I never thought, and I mean, now through the training, I started learning more about the diaphragm breathing, about the deeper breathing. I mean,
Diaphragm.
there's a lot of different breathing techniques, right? You probably heard about it, Wim Hof, but I've never heard the notion that you just mentioned that if you don't take care of your upper body, then you obviously create this bad posture. And that was also my following question about people who are busy, who sit a lot, like myself. This is
Yeah.
amazing that you mentioned this and that you're really so hyper aware, because I think many people just don't realize that they just go to a doctor and they said, yeah, I have lungs problem, and they give you something for your lungs, but they don't look for the real cause, that you maybe don't have undertrained back muscles, and you don't have actually that bandwidth for your lungs to really expand.
Yeah, most of the people think it's called sarcopenia. Of course, I mean, like, it's a very simple term equations. If you don't use our muscle, it would get shrinked. But most likely, the most part, the most shrink muscle part will be on our upper body, because we already train it. We use our muscle, our lower body, to walk. We use it to walk. We use it every day. But for most people nowadays, we really use our upper body. We just do this, right? This is a reason why people say to me, like, oh, you know what, Chitra, I'm having, I've got stress. And this is a reason why I have a, acid on my stomach, due to the stress. And I said, That's not always the case. You know what? Because when you have a bad posture, it is some sort of a push, or put your main organs not in a, proper place.
Right. They're displaced because you maybe have, like I was telling you the other day about my friend who hurt in himself because he's high level executive, and he spends a lot of time in front of his
Mhm.
PC. And the thing is, he gets very passionate when it comes down to group sport. And then the other day he went to play some pebble or tennis, and he got hernia, and it happened to him multiple times. And you're probably really familiar with these injuries, because then
Exactly.
you
Yeah,
are out, and it's exactly, some part of muscle dislocates. It's because you have weak obliques, because you have undertrained lower back, because you have bad posture. And exactly, when I think about it, it's exactly the thing, his upper body is undertrained.
exactly. Upper body. As well, I think most of the executive, because I have some of a clients who's, coming from a therapy, and they told me, like, I have a pensioner. What did you do? And they most of the executive, they do golf, right? Which is, which is, I understand they need, I mean, like, it's a part of the executive lifestyle. But what you need to consider is, when you do the swing and you don't engage your core, it will be most likely turn your and shifting your spine as well. So you have to really handle your core more. If you do really love golf, or if you do really that kind of exercise, you have to, train your upper body very well, or else it will become a serious issues for ourselves.
Chitra, do you have, maybe when we talk already about these busy executives like seniors, do you have
Yeah.
like three top exercises that you would take people through? Because what I see as a big challenge, and correct me if I'm wrong, like if you're a high impact individual, you enjoy this social element, which is golf and just
Yeah.
swing, but this is not, for me, this is a sport that actually is an extension of something else. That means you need to do way more to be able to perform at that
Mhm.
level. But do you have like top three exercises that would help these people to kind of get a little bit in a decent shape and prevent these
Yeah.
type of injuries?
Actually, most of the people think they need to go to the gym and do this and do that. Actually, you don't really need to go there. You can do you can train your upper body just by sitting in a chair. You just need, some of some of the dumbbells and then do it properly, like in a chair, just by sitting. It doesn't matter, but you have to really activate your upper body, because or else it will lead into many health issues as well. It sounds very simple, like how would you think that upper body could lead into many serious illnesses? Well, the fact is like that, because when we have a bad posture, we cannot breathe properly. What happens when we cannot breathe properly is we tend to develop the high blood pressure, because our heart will work, will work harder if we cannot breathe deeply. If we be, we are not being able to breathe deeply, we will have a problem with our heart. And this is a reason why it started to develop the high blood pressure, and then leads to the dysfunctions or the degenerative issues to any other organs. But most of people didn't realize about it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite new to me, to be honest. I have like a generic sense because, I have done a lot of these boot camps and, trained people in the health, and I always focused on having kind of naturally from, like you said, bodybuilding, you have this focus on this perfect body. So you cannot neglect one part. You don't have this, oh, let's forget our legs and let's just focus on the upper body. You need to train everything. But I never was thinking about it just the way you describe it. I know that I'm not sitting optimally, for example, because I feel always my middle back is kind of tensed. And in the end of the day, or in the end of the week, if I don't do any type of stretching or yoga, which I also thought in the past is just for women, but I noticed that's not how it works, especially here in the West. I know this is also why having you on talking to you from, with the more Asian approach, I think this is something what the West is missing, I feel. We go often to we are often in a reactive mode, we are often on the move. And then when it's too late, like a lot of people, as they get older, they trade all their money for the health because they didn't build the memory, they didn't build those reps, those exercises to prevent them. We better, swallow a over-counter medication pain pills to mitigate the pain.
And you know what? It makes it more dangerous. If we have a problem on our back, it will lead to our difficulties in walking as well as the time goes. So this is what happens with seniors. They don't really realize they don't really train their upper body, and then that leads them to difficulties in walking. And then when they do have these difficulties in walking, they just have a limited limited options for exercising. They just ended up in sitting and then resting, and then depending on the medications to cure themselves. So
It's a vicious cycle, right? It's like this one thing leads to another. Like I'm a big advocate of habits. Like, you wake up in the morning, you think of maybe 3 things you are grateful for, then 2 things I want to accomplish that day, and then maybe one mantra that I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm healthy or I'm strong, whatever it is. And it might sound ridiculous. Cascades into those habits. I go down, first thing I put on my shoes, I get to the gym, I work out, then I take a cold shower. And this is like, I've done those things that I know will make me successful, but in what I'm paid for. And in the end, even if you're not paid for some things, it's about longevity, like you said. And a lot of people don't realize, and myself now, you kind of open my mind as well to more imagination. I'm like, there is room for improvement in the upper body. And I know a lot of people who are also actually below the 40 and after the 30 threshold in the mid 30s, they struggle with their upper back because they have a pain all the time, tension here all the time because of that stress. And it's all like the opposite of what you're talking about, opening yourself up, more constrictive, and all this hunching back doesn't and add to it.
And most of the people thinking like this, like, okay, how do I start an exercise? By running or by, going into some sport games, right? I'm not saying this is wrong.
This is the best. This is the solution for everything.
I'm not saying this is wrong, but if you want to if you want to take a look closer, you will find that most of the heart attack happens in sports games compared to the gym. Do you know why?
No, I actually not.
Because in sports game or in cycling, in running and in sports game, we cannot predict what we will face, what kind of intensity, what kind of intensity that we have to face, you know. Like for example, we're doing a tennis or we're doing any kind of a sport games, we rely based on, you know, the power of the our how is it called, our opposite players,
Our
right?
swing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And also when we do the bicycle, we cannot pick. You know, you just cannot pick the intensity. You go with the flow with the route. So this is a reason why the heart rate is not really, you know, in a very good rhythm during the exercise, during the sports game or cycling or running. I'm not saying this is bad, but if you don't know how to breathe properly, it will, you know, very dangerous for you. So you have to understand how to breathe properly and put your heart, um, you know, put less pressure on your heart.
Yeah, I mean, there's this whole notion of VO2 max, right? The maximum
Yeah.
output of your heart. And I don't think,
Yes.
like, if you get into the sports world, like I've been for the last 20 years, you slowly start to realize the different frequencies and the different zones. Like on the watch that I'm wearing from Sunto, from the Finnish
True.
company, there is no affiliation, but that's kind of my second version. And there you have the frequencies, and you can see after you exercise, you can, even if you don't hire anybody,
Yeah.
you can start testing. Okay, this exercise I felt really puffed, like I did this morning when I did my high interval training, and I'm like, I see the heartbeat is hitting,
Mhm.
quite high, maybe 110, 120. But then as I get, more experience doing these workouts, ideally your heart rate goes down, right? And then
Yeah.
you're able, the output of your heart is able to manage more.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
but if you jump into this and you have no experience whatsoever, like we talked about those
No experience. We
10-year-olds
talk about,
who
yeah.
just get passionate sitting too long and suddenly they're like, oh, let's go all out. This is a
Yeah.
disaster for heart attack. This is exactly what can happen. This is,
Correct.
I didn't think about that it happens in a sport, because I could imagine you see these movies where people get heart attack when they are sitting at home, but probably that's the wrong target because they are sitting home their whole life. But I can imagine that's probably
And
happening.
by the same yeah I mean, like by this people would think like, oh, don't exercise too hard, you know, because when you exercise too hard, you're gonna have a heart attack. It's not about a heart attack. It's about picking the right exercise for you when you start or when you are beginner in exercising. I think it's not about the exercise itself. Most of people think that you shouldn't really go into hard exercise because, you know, it can lead to heart attack. But the problem is not the heart attack. The problem is when we never exercising and we start exercising, we need to go to a workout program that is can, you know, have a very good rhythm for our heart rate,
Hmm.
which
And I
like
mean, this
is
is where I also totally can imagine being smart at this and put your ego down and say, hey, I actually need Chitra to help me to
auto trainer.
navigate this,
Yeah.
because then having a guide and having somebody rather than just doing it by yourself and hoping for the best can be probably the good way forward. Chitra, as we kind of teased people out already, and I really love where is this going, could you maybe just also, as we conclude slowly the
Yeah.
discussion, give people an idea about what are the easy tips for people to start taking action now? I'm a big advocate of something that you can take away with you now, wherever you are in the world. You said maybe thinking about fitness always from the gym perspective, that's not the way to go. Maybe you can start already training when you're in a chair. But do you have maybe top 3 tips for people, or top 5, that you would encourage people to start moving themselves more towards the longevity and healthy lifestyle?
Yeah, it's very simple. Like the three tops exercises, the first one is the breathing techniques. So before you can pass this, do not ever try any other exercise. You have to try to breathe deeply. Soon as you are able to breathe deeply, then you can start any other exercises. Because most of the people struggle with breathing deeply, and this is gonna be very dangerous for us to do exercise. So breathe deeply and build your upper body, and then the rest, yeah, you can enjoy any kind of exercise after that.
That sounds
question.
Way too simple, but you know, I always have this saying: "What's common knowledge is not common practice." But so I would ask everybody who's watching and who listening,